Hello, how are you? I'm fine, actually. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Okay, so I wasn't planning on doing a video again so soon, but here we are. I've just seen something repeated yet again on Twitter and feeling compelled to respond. And it all pertains to a woeful lack of education and kind of knowledge generally around neonatal care and the care ratings of neonatal units. And particularly when this is being spread by people who have their whole shtick is about hating misinformation and just wanting to get the facts straight. You see them repeating this this nonsense. It's quite aggravating for me. But I'm not going to show their name because it's not, while in this case it's delivered with some forthright certainty, it doesn't really matter because lots of people say it anyway. And the fact that it is willful misinformation is possibly by the by. It's just that it needs countering that matters. So it is twofold. One, the claim made by Dr. John Gibbs just after Lucy Letby's convictions that there has only been one baby to die in all of the years following her removal from the unit. Please do see Stuart Gillam's video on why did the deaths stop, brackets, they didn't, because he explains it very well. And he also does it with a lot more, he's far more measured than I am. And I suppose is more credible than I. So there you go. But also, there is some confusion around deaths, babies in hospitals, because they are recorded. My dog's having a big shake, sorry. They are recorded by the hospital they were born in. So even if the baby has been transferred elsewhere, if they didn't make it, they go on the death certificates of the original hospital, and this does create some confusion. Anyway, I mean, also you could look at John Gibbs in that same interview saying healthy babies were dying inexplicably. And I think probably we all know enough now to be able to dismiss him as a complete fucking crank in that regard, who is shifting blame with, wow, monumental arrogance and disregard for the babies who actually have died at the Countess of Chester, as Stuart Gillam so poignantly points out. Anyway, here we are. The whole point really is this idea that when the hospital downgraded, which they did within the same working week as moving Lucy off of the ward and onto more managerial or office tasks, they knew the number of deaths was going to fall dramatically. In fact, their lawyers had actually warned them of this, and to be careful not to make a correlation between Lucy leaving and the deaths stopping. Now, that, of course, was ignored, and for a long time we were not being told that the unit had downgraded within that time, and it's still impossible really to find out when it did become a level 2 unit. The argument is then that all of the babies that she allegedly murdered and attacked otherwise would still be admitted to the Countess of Chester as a level 1. Now, this just isn't true, and this only works if you look at the unit ratings purely on differentiating between babies born before 34 weeks, or 32 weeks, sorry, and those below 1,000 grams. Now, it may surprise you, it shouldn't, because anybody who's actually given any thought to this should not be surprised. It's a bit more complicated than age and weight. I mean, for goodness sake. And for clear reasons. So age and weight are good, kind of broad categories, and they're a good indicator on what else might be required, but they're certainly not good enough to count these babies as all easily admittable to a level 1. And of course, let's not forget with multiple births, they are going to need a higher gestation than that with singletons. But anyway, I am absolutely not pretending to have any specialist knowledge here. I don't. So this is something you should all look into yourselves. But as an overview, Level 1 baby care unit. So that's a low dependency. This is for babies who do not need intensive care. Often these will be babies born after 32 weeks gestation. Care can include, this is from Bliss, by the way. God, I am terrible. This is from Bliss. Care can include monitoring their breathing or heart rate, giving them more oxygen, treating low body temperature, treating low blood sugar, helping them feed, sometimes by using a tube, helping babies who become unwell soon after birth. This also includes quite often the light therapy. If you've ever had a jaundiced baby, like they put them under the lights to help break down the bilirubin in the skin. So this is low dependency, like it says on the tin, as some massively aggravating but somehow successful ad campaign once had it. Now, giving them more oxygen, you see, this is where you start to get into and needing to break it down further. Essentially, any invasive breathing apparatus is a level 2 or above. This level is essentially just for keeping them ticking over, they don't need much help. You're monitoring them more than anything. You're keeping them warm, maybe topping up like their blood sugar, you're monitoring their breathing, blah, blah. It's really low dependency, as it says. So, a level 2, which is what the Countess of Chester was functioning as, operates with children needing a higher level of medical and nursing support. If your baby was or will be born between 27 and 31 weeks gestation, you may be transferred to the LNU, which is Local Neonatal Unit, Level 2. So you can see that gestation is definitely a critical factor here, but it's certainly not all of it. Short-term intensive care, usually up to 48 hours. Now we know, for example, baby C weighed just 800 grams, was showing signs of a bowel obstruction and wasn't seen by a consultant for the first 4 days of life, and it was his 4th day, it was his last day, which is such a scandal. I find it really difficult to believe that these people actually care about the babies and the parents. Certainly, if one of my babies had been born so premature and so malnourished in the womb, so tiny, the fetal growth delay to that extent, and he wasn't seen by a consultant until the day he died, 4 days later, despite vomiting bile and digested blood. I mean, you can't imagine the trauma and just the rage. Short-term ventilation, continuous positive airway pressure, CPAP. How many of these babies were on CPAP? Or high flow therapy for breathing support. How many of these babies were on too high air pressure? How many times did we hear that? How did Lucy Letby harm baby K, allegedly again? It's something to do with her breathing tube. Many of these babies were intubated. Child H had a double lung collapse because they set the pressure too high, as well as left a needle in her chest. They left a needle in her chest and then had to shove 3 drains in her chest to release the air pockets to help her breathe again, and Ravi Jayaram put the 3rd one in, far too low, using the wrong kind, which wasn't his fault. It was the fact the hospital didn't even have the right kind of drains left. And this place was a shit show. Child O, of course, we famously heard about from Dr. Taylor at Mark McDonald's first press conference, where he talked about the pressure being set so high his liver was pushed into his lower abdomen, meaning that when Brewery did that just insane decision to aspirate his belly and drew out blood, yeah, lots of these babies. Child D, I just saw in the tweet I was citing originally, born full term. Well, yeah, she was, and she would have been absolutely fine if that hospital had kept its shit together in any way whatsoever and given the mother some antibiotics. She collapsed and needed resuscitation at 12 minutes old, which they blamed on the father for holding her wrong. Just disgusting. I mean, that mother was a first-time mum, and, the patronising kind of dismissal that you can encounter, particularly as a first-time mother, but as a mother generally, when something is wrong, is a real issue in medical misogyny. It really is. You get dismissed as neurotic or whatever, but she was absolutely on the ball, and really she was doing brilliant, for a woman whose waters are broken. 72 hours, and then even after the emergency cesarean they don't give the baby antibiotics for 4 hours, despite this collapse when Lucy wasn't there. And well, they know that because she was looking at something on Facebook during her break. And then Sandy Bowen said, "Oh, I'm not blaming the father, but, men are terrible with babies," kind of bullshit. Care during periods where their breathing pauses briefly caused apnea. Now, child O, he had an apnea, didn't he? That's what Dr. Richard Taylor said. He wasn't particularly unwell, but he had an apnea. Feeding through a drip in their vein called parenteral nutrition. How did she poison those babies with insulin again, allegedly? Weren't they on TPN bags? I mean, let's not forget that the mother of the triplets, which obviously includes child O, was told that when her babies were born, they would each have their own designated nurse, and they ended up with Lucy Letby looking after them, who was also training a student nurse as well at the same time, and a student nurse who was kind of obstructive and getting in her way all of the time. I just find this so risible, and this is why I just think it's abject lies and a direct attempt at misinformation. It's a calculated attempt at misinformation, because the people who are saying this, certainly some of them, really, really should know better by now. The only other thing I wanted to say was, even if all of these babies had still been delivered and well, cared for at the Countess of Chester Hospital, the massive numbers of babies they were then treating would have been significantly reduced anyway. So even if that was the case, that these babies would still have been admitted there, which it isn't true. It just is not, categorically not true. The staff would have been under significantly less pressure. So there we go. people who claim to care an awful lot about the babies and the families, yet again, glossing over absolutely heinous and unforgivable medical negligence and trying to simplify it all, just like Gibbs did with the healthy babies were dying. Nonsense. If you care about this, and if you care about the mothers particularly, if you obviously the fathers too, but the care that the mothers are getting, and because mum's instincts are like, yes, I'm sure we have a tendency to be over the top, especially having your first baby. But look at Baby D's mum, her instincts were exactly bang on. If they listened to her, her little girl would have survived. So I don't believe that anybody who's overlooking these just unforgivable breaches of medical protocol and basic care that should have been afforded to these babies really cares, and certainly they've had plenty enough time to work out what is and is not within the remit of a level 1 and a level 2. So yeah, that'll be it from me tonight, and I will speak to you again. I'll be ranting at you sometime in the future. Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.
Mm-hmm.